Stephen A. Smith, you and I have covered lots of teams, lots of sports for lots of years and lots of championship rounds. You know how every once in a while it's just meant to be? This was just meant to be. From April 15th forward, it was meant to be. From that tragedy to that beautiful triumph last night, the perfect melding of a very proud, resilient city with an extremely proud and resilient baseball team. From the ugliness of Bobby Valentine to the beauty brought by John Farrell, matched in the bigger picture by the tragedy of what happened on Boston Marathon Day after the 12th Red Sox game of the year on Patriots Day, to the first time in nearly 100 years that Red Sox fans got to experience the clinching of a World Series at home. I mean, can you think of a more beautiful moment than that? A more perfectly beautiful moment? And Stephen A., I'm the first to admit, were the Red Sox the best team in baseball, the most talented team? Were they better than the Dodgers that you and Kerry love? No, they were not. Were they better than the Cardinals? No, I don't think they were better on paper than the Cardinals. They weren't better than the Detroit Tigers, or we could go back to the Oakland A's. They just weren't a great team. But they got the hits and made the pitches at the moments because it just felt meant to be. And as their beards grew, and I love that dynamic of the beards that brought them together, unified that team, the momentum just grew and grew and grew until you saw last night. I didn't think they could beat Waka, and they beat him up. And I wasn't convinced that John Lackey could do it again, and he turned back into that dominating postseason Lackey. And I told you on opening day when we were at the Hard Rock Cafe, there are a lot of ifs facing this team, but if they all turn into yeses, this team has a chance to be really good. Every if turned into a yes, and then the greatest break of all, unfortunately for a Joel Hanrahan and an Andrew Bailey, is they were supposed to be, respectively, closer and setup men. Both got hurt, fatefully. And here came Koji Uehara. Stephen A., at his greatest, Mariano Rivera wasn't much, if any, better in any single postseason than Koji was in this one. So it's just meant to be. Koji wasn't that much as a Texas Ranger, and all of a sudden he's Mariano Rivera as a Red Sox. Wow. I loved watching it, and I loved feeling the emotion through my TV screen late last night for the city of Boston.
It just all seemed to be, as you would say, destiny, and a very appropriate way to end. But I also think that we've got to give a lot of props and a lot of love to John Farrell, the manager for the Boston Red Sox. This is an individual that had a playing career, but then ultimately was the pitching coach for the Boston Red Sox from 2007 to 2010, was known for having a great relationship with players and being able to maximize whatever potential was inside of them and getting them to go out there and give their all, assisting manager Terry Francona tremendously at that particular moment in time. You know, to sit there and to take over this team in the aftermath of the disaster that was Bobby Valentine's stewardship as manager over this franchise last year, to come in there this season, that was a big plus. But also you have to give love to the organization and understand what they did here. They got rid of the high-priced dudes in Crawford, in an Adrian Gonzalez, in a Josh Beckett. They shipped them out to Los Angeles. And where did that get them? It got them to the postseason, but it certainly didn't deliver a World Series championship. But you kept your core in place, the heart and soul, the spirit of this franchise in place. You put some parts into the mix, and you had guys that weren't high-priced. Nevertheless, they went out there and went about the business of playing together, playing as a unit. And what that does in this day and age, Skip, I think should resonate profoundly. Because here in New York City, I mean, not here, but I'm in Chicago, but being from New York City, being a diehard Yankee fan, I think the talent that Robinson Cano he's worthy of $30 million a year, and he matters. But when you see what Boston is doing and how they go about the business of winning, and you see even an organization like the New York Yankees suddenly paying attention to that $189 million threshold so they don't have to dole out all of these funds, all of a sudden you see how Boston is going about doing what they've done. Not to say they don't spend money, because clearly they do. But the point is, those high-priced dudes aren't what you necessarily need in order to win a championship. You have to have a manager that's in tune with the players, that knows how to maximize their capabilities, and you have to have guys on the same page, recognizing that it's just important to play for one another as it is to play for themselves. You have to have a leader that galvanizes the troops the way Big Papi did, particularly in game 5 of the World Series. You've got to have all of that going together. And if you can pull that off, that usurps and supersedes what high-priced talent can do for you. The Boston Red Sox gave us a lesson on that, and I think as a result, we're going to see a lot of teams take notice and suddenly acknowledge we don't necessarily have to go that route in order to field the World Series championship team. We have to pay attention to the mindset, the passion, the heart that you have to play 162 games and still go out there and play it like you're playing for the first time. This is what the Boston Red Sox taught us this year, this entire season. And I think we don't have any choice but to take notice and pay homage to the greatness that they exhibited, because it was gritty, and that's what was great about them. It was that their performance was gritty, and they just bucked all the odds.